Hey, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome to Jets Talk Now. I'm Paul Fiore. Please click like and subscribe as we continue to grow the channel. We're now over 300 subscribers. We hit our goal for the end of 2025. Can't say I'm not more thankful than I could be possibly. I started this channel, kind of on a whim at the end of November, just because, I thought it'd be a good idea to be able to have something where we could just, I guess vent, talk logically, try to have a provocative conversation around this team and how it can become something that we're proud of again. And I'm very thankful for all the support. Today, on New Year's Eve, I thought it would be great to just get on. Glenn spoke earlier and met with the press, and as we wind down here, Glenn's pressers are going to be less and less newsworthy because, let's be honest, what is there to say in a 3-13 season? So, I try to pick out the things that I find interesting and maybe are things that are worth kind of referencing in these pods. And, today he mentioned all the different guys that are not practicing. Mason Taylor, Breece Hall, Joe Tippmann. I'd be shocked actually if Breece plays on Sunday. There's no point. He hit his 1,000 yards. What's the benefit of playing him in a complete waste, of a game? So the Jets did sign someone, practice squad. I expect they're going to just trot out, it sounds like Brady Cook's playing again, and it's funny, right? Because the media is going to ask these questions. The beat reporters are funny, though. That's like somebody goes to Glenn, so why are you starting Brady Cook? And he's like, because I want him to get another game. And then the follow-up was, do you think he gives you the best chance to win? I mean, what's he supposed to say? No. So it's like, Glenn, it's funny. I feel like I'm defending Glenn, and I'm not trying to because I'm very grounded in my view of where Glenn is as the head coach. But I also think he takes a lot of heat for things that it's a no-win answer. Like, is he supposed to say, no, but the point of these games right now is not to win. It's just to evaluate players, and I want to evaluate Brady Quinn for next year. I mean, he'll get killed for saying that. You can't say that. So, it's fine. He's playing him. They don't want to win. They want to finish in the second or third spot for the draft. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting is, and it almost felt like Glenn came into this with an agenda, because I truly believe he's way more in tune to social media than he lets on. I don't know if that's personal choice by him, perusing X or different reports, but they asked him what tangible things have improved this year that maybe we don't see on the field. And, the first thing he did was actually talk about on-field things that he would reference as improvements. And he'll get killed for this too. And I don't think it's fair necessarily. But, he pointed to the running game. He's like, I wanted to establish the run this year. And, we were a bottom running team last year, which is true. The Jets were a terrible running offense last year. And so now they're a top 10 running game. Now, the results haven't led to anything, but it's accurate to say they've improved in the running game. He referenced special teams, which is 100% true. Special teams were one of the worst in the league last year, cost the Jets 3 games. Now, this year, it actually won them, probably won them 2 games for sure. I don't know. Did it win them the 3rd game? For sure, they won 2 games. I guess you could say it won them all 3 as I'm thinking about it. And then he referenced the reduction in penalties. And also, True. So those things are tangibly improved from previous years. Now the results are terrible, so it doesn't matter. I apologize. I'm still coming over this sickness. I feel a lot better, but I'm not there yet. My energy's definitely up. So, um, the thing that Glenn, and he's taking the heat for talking about special teams, and I guess the field goal unit's not had any block kicks, which was kind of a silly. I think that was a silly thing to reference, but um, he did say that they need to be better overall on defense, and he did say that the passing game is not where it needs to be. So, context. He's taking crap because he's referencing special teams and improvement in penalties, but those aren't untrue. And he did talk about the things that aren't good, and he's disappointed in. So, again, that doesn't mean he's going to figure it out. Doesn't mean he's going to become a good coach. But the guy is literally taking bullets all day, and I can't believe I'm sitting here defending him because the first 7 games of the season, I was pretty much looking at it and saying, this guy is, it doesn't look like he's got it. I think that's still more likely than not to be true. But now, it's like when you don't like something, you just try to make sure that you find the easy things to just attack. The angry mob is going to attack Aaron Glenn no matter what right now. They just are. And that's the reality of Aaron Glenn being a first-time head coach in New York for a team that's lost for 15 straight seasons, 10 of which without making a 500 record. In this market, with this fan base that is rightfully angry, with media that's looking for ways to make sure that they can point the issues out when they see them, this job is very difficult for a first-time guy. And it was why I didn't support Glenn, right? So up front, I wanted an experienced guy. And it's really funny because you see all the discourse online, and really the fan sentiment in general is one of anger and dissension amongst the fan base. You have the staunch AG supporters, you have the detractors, and they're just fighting with each other nonstop on X. Now, the nature of X, especially if you allow it to, it is kind of set up for you to just go at each other. And I think in general today, and maybe this speaks more broadly culturally, people are more inclined to fight with each other as opposed to have a healthy debate with each other and try to come to a resolution on whatever they disagree on. It's kind of why, in a way, it's interesting for someone like myself, who's very opinionated in general, to have such a non-stance on Aaron Glenn at this point, because I was very strongly against hiring him. But then once they hired him, like anything else, I'm going to support my team and I'm going to support that the decision was the right one, hopefully, until it's proven that it isn't. And then we go back through this cycle again. Well, he gave you nothing to feel good about. So early in the season and all the mistakes and footfalls that he made, I was very critical of. And I took a lot of heat online from people who were supporters. Like I'd point out his press conferences and his constant, I almost borderline arrogance that he had to the media about questions they were asking, legitimate ones. His whole stance on what's not the same old Jets and, the bravado and the lack of humility, it bothered me greatly. And then, when they traded those guys, I was like, okay, I'm now conceding that he's getting a second season because there's no way that Woody would let him trade very popular players who sell merch for draft capital if he wasn't going to let him make those decisions. So I believe those are actually the right decisions because this team is not ready to win. And I like the assets that we acquired, especially Sauce's asset. I mean, both. They were great trades by Muji. But I pivoted from getting rid of Glenn to, all right, we're going to have him here for 2 years. So like I stopped. And then my evaluation on Glenn became less about anything that was happening in game because the team is awful and they're basically tanking now, to how does he handle the media? Is he improving? And he has. Now maybe part of that is the humility of being 3-13, but I don't see him anywhere near the same pompous kind of attitude that he had in the beginning. And hopefully that's a lesson learned. He's doing what I want him to do, which is to lose games right now. So so from my perspective, the fan sentiment right now on him is really challenging. And he's going to have a long, long way to go to try to fix it. People are going to go into year 2 ready to get him out of here. He has, like, he keeps saying, don't let go of the rope. People weren't ever even holding the rope, some of them. And the ones that were have let go, except for the small few. And then you see a Badlands pod yesterday where, Connor Rogers, who I love Connor. I think Connor and Joe to me are like the gold standard on the pod side, different than what Jake does. Jake does a daily show. But Connor and Joe, their pods are so grounded and not hot take driven. And I try to emulate a lot of that just because I that's what inspired me, those guys, and what I'm doing. But when you hear someone like Connor Rogers talk about, agents don't want their players getting drafted by the Jets, that's not good, man. That's bad. And so Glenn's got this uphill battle because you got to win over a fan base. You got to fix the culture in the locker room, and you got to start winning football games. And you got to do all that. And you got to figure out a quarterback. And you got to get a coaching staff. So like you got 5 things you have to figure out in an offseason. And you're going into your second season as ever being a head coach. And you're more of a personality driven head coach than you are an X's and O's head coach, if that makes sense. So what do you do? Well, I think this civil war that's going on with the fan base is not going to get any better. And I hope it, I mean, listen, this would be the appeal that I have to people who watch this. No matter what side of the Aaron Glenn argument you fall on, ultimately you're a fan of this team for a reason, because you want them to be. It's in your blood. If you're a Jets fan, it's like you're different. You're built just differently. You've gone through hell. You know what it's like to be through the darkest of dark. You're hoping one day that it turns. There's only been one Super Bowl, and it was before I was born. And I'm not a kid. The last time they were a winning organization, I was in my mid-30s. It's crazy. But if you're a fan of this team, no matter what, above everything else, just want them to be a winner. And so you may not agree, and I may not agree with the decisions that these guys make. But at the end of the day, we're fans. We don't get paid for these decisions. So we have to hope, and it is hope, that guys like Darren Muji, who come from a really good organization, know what the hell they're doing. They evaluate the quarterback position. They make the right decision. They draft the right players. Glenn learns from season 1 and goes into season 2 with a plan to improve. That should be the way we as fans come together and unite. It's around the idea that this can become a team we become proud of eventually. Is it going to be Aaron Glenn? I mean, look, the odds are stacked against him. I'm not going to put up my screen like some people will show you all the guys that failed like him. in their first season, and then they never ever have success. We know the numbers. It's a daunting task. Add to it the New York market. The dude is the ultimate underdog. And you know what's funny? I'm an underdog story guy. I love the underdog. So maybe part of me about Glenn now is he came in with this bravado, and now he's like this beat up fighter who's been knocked down to the canvas multiple times, and he's trying to get up. It's like Rocky, right? Like what the Rocky story is always like. First of all, I'm Italian, so Sylvester Stallone, Rocky is my thing. But you know, Rocky was the ultimate underdog. Like Aaron Glenn is a massive underdog right now. As Jets fans, we're underdogs. We should just all like line up and hope this dude figures it out because he's getting a second season. You just fighting for getting rid of him right now is kind of it's a pointless exercise in futility. It's just going to make you more angry. And there's a lot of people I love who are all about getting rid of him right now, and it's not going to happen. So I don't see the point. And I hate to say that it's blind faith, but that's really what it is at this point for him. So even if you're a big AG guy, I'm just sitting here going, look, it's blind faith if we're hoping for a turnaround. But that's pretty much what we've got, right? Like what now? Get the season over with, please, God. Please let the season end. Black Monday comes. There'll be a bunch of guys fired. Glenn will not be one of them. But I am hoping that Glenn and Muji have already started having conversations about the coaching staff. Who's done a good job this year? Who's done a bad job this year? Who's incomplete? And yes, there are incomplete grades. Tanner Engstrand is an incomplete grade to me. There needs to be changes in the staff. Defensive staff, you're going to get rid of pretty much everybody. I mean, they better. If they don't, I'd be very upset. These are the things that will get me angry with Glenn. Don't make defensive staff complete wholesale changes. That would piss me off. Bringing in a defensive coordinator who's just a friend of Glenn would piss me off. Go and get a good defensive coordinator. And he's got a challenge because he's going to need to convince somebody to come in here as a defensive coordinator, knowing that his seat is not 100% safe going into year 2. Because if he has another bad year, he's not getting a third season. So what has to happen? Full staff evaluation. Rip the Band-Aid off the defensive staff. Go get a defensive coordinator. If it's Wink Martindale, I'm good with Wink. Like he's a good coach. Now you could say he's got a personality thing and he clashed with Dable. Dable clashed with everybody, so whatever. Wink's a good coach. If that's the guy you got to bring in because you can't convince a Jim Leonard to come here or Harris to come here, I'm cool. Wink's a professional defensive coordinator. He will bring in a good staff. Look at the offensive side of the staff and look at it with clear eyes. You like Tanner? Okay, you keep him. If you don't, and you don't think he can do what you want him to do, I'm not opposed to replacing Tanner. I just think that I'm right now not ready to fire him because I think it's an incomplete when the QB position has been so bad. Okay? If you're keeping Tanner, there needs to be a full conversation around what quarterback runs your system the way you need them to run it to be successful. I want to know existing NFL quarterbacks, and I want to know, based on the evaluation on college talent, who you like. That doesn't mean we're going to get them, but I want to know what your opinion is. That needs to happen. Other than him, your offensive line coach did a pretty good job. I think he stays. But what after that? Wide receiver coach? I mean, he was a carryover. This team has been terrible. The passing game coordinator? I mean, who else? Your QB coach? Like, please do this fan base. This would actually help Glenn a lot. If Glenn brings in a true DC and then replaces staff on the offensive side of the ball who have experience or are up and coming high end coaches that can build an infrastructure around a rookie quarterback, you'll see people kind of get excited about that. I remember when Glenn got hired and they started naming his staff, people were freaking out. Charles London? Like what? Like the names that were coming out, people were really upset. It's not a way to solve the problem, but it's a way to help him. Hire competent, strong, talented people in your staff. Woody should come out with a very strong supportive message for Glenn. Optically, that helps him when he's recruiting. Okay. So Black Monday, get rid of a lot of the coaching staff, rebuild it, bring in talent that will help you define who you are as a head coach, and will develop this team. Free agency. You're going to have $100 million to spend. They're not going to spend all of it. Splashy free agent signings are a complete waste of time right now. This team is massively devoid of talent in the broader 53-man roster. Build with character, build with people who are durable, good football players who have the right character that fits what you're trying to do. Get strong, talented, depth players on defense that can play. You don't need to go out and get and I don't even know the big name free agents right now. I haven't looked at it, but you have to spread the money around and rebuild this roster. You're going to turn over more than 50% of this roster in the offseason. So for free agency, you're going to need to sign 2 quarterbacks, not 1, 2. Even if you're drafting one, get one that's going to start, get one who's your backup. You need wide receiver help. Probably should draft one, but you also need to sign. Okay. You need to build out this roster and then use your draft capital to get your skilled players, high level A-chip talent, because they have a lot of high-end draft capital. So if you start showing me that type of plan and it starts to mold itself, then I'm starting to feel a little bit better about what year 2 might look like. And so there's a process here that goes through this offseason that as fans we need to come into and say, all right, he's here. Let's drop all of our anger and let's see what he does. Okay. He got rid of some really crappy coaches and he brought in some good people. It's a win. Free agency. Oh, we're acquiring solid, good football players with good character, right? High motors, guys that bust their butts. They're not going to be locker room problems. We feel good about that. Oh, we watched the combine and the draft process play itself out. I strongly believe the Jets are going to take a quarterback this draft. I strongly believe it will wind up being either Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore. One of those two. Plan B is Ty Simpson. Or maybe plan C. Plan D is taking a quarterback rounds 2, 3, or 4. That's a developmental type. The only way that happens is, God forbid, they win on Sunday and the spread's only 7 points. So that's a little scary. And they fall out of the top 3. Because if the Jets finish in the top 3, whether they're 2 or 3, because that's where they can land, they will either trade up from 3 to 2 to guarantee one of those 2 guys, or if the Giants finish at 1, which they still can, the Jets will trade from 3 to 1 and 100% guarantee that they get the quarterback that they want. And I don't know who that is. I know me personally, and I've said this before, so I'm like a broken record. I have Mendoza here. I have more here. I have Simpson here. Mendoza here mainly because of all of the intangibles, which makes me think that someone like Tom Brady, when he sits down with Fernando Mendoza, is going to feel the same way, because Fernando Mendoza is not the most athletic quarterback. He's not the strongest armed quarterback, right? But he's got a super high IQ. He has an attitude and mindset that's unmatched. You may think he's corny. I think it's crazy. People are like, oh, he's kind of nerdy. Oh, okay. He's football nerdy. He loves ball. He's super intelligent. He works his ass off, and he dares and wants to be great and has no fear. No fear. Those are not one of those 5 things I named have anything to do with his ability to throw the football or his ability to run with the ball. He has a above average arm. He is above average size, 6'4", 6'5". He's mobile enough. So I take the physical skills, which are all B or higher, and then I add on the 5 other things I just said earlier that are all A plus. And I have a guy that will come into this position in New York with such a mindset of, I'm just here to go and be a great football player and screw everything else, that the history of this organization, the media, everything else, that's not going to be what his focus is. He's just going to be here trying to be great at football. So I think Tom Brady will fall in love with a guy like that, which is why I don't want the Raiders to have the number 1 pick, because I think that that's, to me, the guy that he's going to want. Plus, he's got 30 plus starts at the college level. So to me, it's like I want to do everything I can to get Mendoza. That's either getting to 1 or being at number 2 and hoping the Raiders fall in love with all of Dante Moore's physical attributes, which are better in some respects than Mendoza, which is why people think he has a higher ceiling. If either one of those 2 guys don't happen, Ty Simpson is a nice consolation prize at 3. Now, Ty Simpson should not start and maybe not play 1 game until the end of the season if he's the draft pick. So in that scenario, and I think you know this going back in free agency, you'll know. If he's going to have to be your pick or someone other than him further down the development cycle, then you have to go get yourself a quarterback like Tanner McKee, Malik Willis, Mac Jones, someone that's more than just a stopgap. And so, to me, that's the plan. And then you need to draft in the draft this year, wide receiver 2. You need edge, and you need safety help, and linebacker. Maybe you could solve linebacker help in free agency. You're not going to get it all this year. You're not going to become a 12-win team next year. But if we're saying, well, what now? What do we do? What does a Jet fan hang on to, right? What now? What's the hope? Let's just tie it up real quick and call it a day, because it's New Year's Eve. And although I don't do this anymore, a bunch of you guys are going to go out and party. Here, what now? Season's over. Revamping the coaching staff. Get rid of everybody on the defensive side of the ball. Bring me in an experienced defensive coordinator who I can feel good about building out a staff. Replace people on the offensive side of the staff. If you keep Tanner Engstrand, it's up to you. Make sure he has a lot of input on the quarterback. Free agency. Get ball players. High character guys. Guys with a motor. Guys that aren't going to be issues in the locker room. Okay? Draft process. Make sure you do your evaluations properly with the quarterback position. Have your guys 1, 2, and everybody below. Have a plan of attack. Who am I going to go out there and make the play for? And make the play. Go get them. Show me that you are bringing in the talent you need to be able to be a competent football team. If you do that this offseason, and Aaron Glenn, when you're meeting with the media, lesson learned. Don't talk about winning now. Don't talk about we're the effing New York Jets. Okay? We are building a team. We are building a sustained winning team. We're putting the pieces in place to do those things. Have some humility as a head coach. And then go and produce on the field when the season begins. 7 wins is a baseline to me if you do what I just said. I don't think this would be a playoff team next year. But as fans, we can't expect that. If you go in asking Aaron Glenn next year off of this season with this current roster to turn around overnight and become a 10-win football team, you're just never going to want this guy to be the head coach. And that's fine if that's the way you feel. But if you're willing to give him the opportunity to prove himself and maybe prove you wrong and me wrong, truthfully, because I didn't think he should be the guy that they chose, but I'm giving him the opportunity. Go from a 3-win team this year. God better be a 3-win team. If you win 4 games, I'm going to be very upset. Be a 3-win team this year. Go to 7 or 8 wins next year and show the progress. And then in year 3, with additional draft capital into 2027, now you're a playoff football team. That's the path forward. That is what we should be looking for as fans. That's what we should unite around. That's how we should stop throwing daggers at each other and just calling each other idiots. Like things like Mike McCarthy's a stupid, bad coach. That's dumb. Like Aaron Glenn sucks. Okay. Like all things can be true. Aaron Glenn had a bad year. Mike McCarthy's a good head coach. Mike McCarthy's not a New York Jet head coach. Aaron Glenn is. We need Aaron Glenn to be a good head coach. And Mike McCarthy, I don't really care. Unless Harbaugh gets fired tomorrow, and I still don't think he would come here. Aaron Glenn's your head coach. Root for Aaron Glenn to figure it out. Everybody loves Rocky. Root for him as the underdog at this point. And again, I know a lot of you hate him as the head coach, so this will be hard. But just, man, give the guy a chance to prove you're wrong. I'm going to do that by being open-minded to this offseason, but also being highly critical of the decisions that he makes. So I'm going to try to be a fair arbiter of what's happening as it goes. When he hires someone I like, I will say it. When he doesn't, I will say it. When he makes a good decision, I will say it. And if he makes a bad one, I will say it. And there may come a point where I'm asking for him to be fired. And there may be a point where I say I was wrong. He's doing a great job. I just hope that all of us as fans can just come together and understand. All we want here is a team to finally be proud of. And it starts with this offseason and seeing what they do. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, please click like and subscribe. I will do a video on Friday. We do have some college football games to be excited about. All 3 of the quarterbacks are playing. And so I'll be watching those closely, as every Jet fan should as well. The best you could hope for is all 3 of them just ball out. Let them all be great. Wouldn't that be a good problem to have? Let them all just be awesome. Okay? And so I'll do Friday's show. I'll do my picks for the weekend because there is a Saturday game. And my Fiore 4. And then we'll do our recap on Sunday. And my first guest will be next week. So thank you guys. Talk to you soon. Have a wonderful and safe new year.